Mediterranean, in some years from now, it will be like North Sea, just pushing the people who are working on the project. During the crisis, we invested more than 3 billion of euros. 5% there, 10% there. At the end of the day, it's a lot of money. We are the biggest tax collectors in the country. You can stay in your office and everybody will appear. Personally, I'm an easygoing guy. Come on.
When I found out that you will be our next guest, definitely I realized that we will talk a lot about the Mediterranean region, and you're native to the region, am I right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so could you tell us a bit more about the curious projects happening right now in the region?
We are thinking that Mediterranean, in some years from now, it will be like North Sea for Europe. So this is something which is very interesting, not just for Hellenic, but for the oil industry.
Okay, last year on the previous EPOC Congress, your colleague George Mikoniatis was give us an interview as well, and he told that he's very, very positive about the region in general, and you have a very promising seismic data in Western Greece also, am I right?
Yes, yes.
Could you tell us more about this?
As I told you before, there were some geological concepts, and the new seismic data, both in Greece but also in other parts of the Mediterranean Sea, in Egypt, in Cyprus, even in Lebanon, Israel, are proving what we are thinking, that the geological history over the millions of years, the last million of years, has evolved in and created and formed some significant hydrocarbon resources in the area. So the next day for us is to shoot more seismic, enhance our thoughts about that before going for drilling.
Okay, and how do you estimate the region potential, the resources potential in general, approximately? How are you guessing it?
You know, in the past, some 30 years ago, the United States, the Geological Survey of the United States, they were telling for some incredible numbers. I don't know if still these numbers are there, but we are thinking that in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll discover a lot of Zohr fields. It's not just that Zohr, you remember the discovery that ENI did some years ago, but we do believe that also in Greece, in Cyprus, in Egypt, in that area, we'll discover a lot of Zohrs.
Okay, very, very nice idea. And in general, let us list the most important projects happening in the region right now.
I think that what is going around Cyprus is very interesting. The majors are there. They are drilling. I think that over the next days we'll have some announcements, positive announcements. The last licensing round of Egypt was a success for the country. The majors came in the country and they are there. And in Greece we have started and we are about to sign the lease agreement for 2 huge offshore blocks around Crete, together with Total and ExxonMobil and Hellenic Petroleum, of course.
That was exactly my next question. Could you please give more details on these projects? It's very interesting because the really huge majors came to the region.
Oh yes, there is a very interesting story about that. As I told you before, we had some geological concepts in our mind, but it was, I think, almost 3 years ago. It was just before Christmas 2015, when we had in our hands some multi-client seismic data sought by BGS, and we were looking on those and trying to interpret the complex geology of the area. Okay, and our geologists, our team, were very much excited because they have started seeing some interesting features. So, okay, we worked on that for 2 or 3 months, and then we discussed that with Total. With Total, we were partners for Block 2 in nearby Corfu, and the French were also excited. So, okay, it was February 2016, and we thought, okay, let's form a joint venture to go further on that. We did that, and then we thought, okay, we need another one company to join us, and it was some months later in a congress here in Athens. We approached ExxonMobil. We worked together with them the whole summer, and in autumn 2016 we created a joint venture, which was a very strong joint venture for exploring in the country. Total 40% operator, ExxonMobil 40%, and Hellenic 20%. And then we went to the ministry, we made an application according to the existing legislation. An international tender was released, and here we are. After negotiations and all that stuff, we are about now to sign the lease agreements for these two blocks, which are really big and very, very, very promising.
Okay, and why have you chosen ExxonMobil as a third partner?
Come on. Come on. They are the biggest one all over the world. They have the expertise, they have the financial capability to fund some projects. So we do believe that, okay, Hellenic cannot be compared to those guys, but we are the biggest company in the country, in Greece. We have a lot of geological experience in the country. Total offer us the European essence, and they are also working in the area. They have very good expertise and technological background. So ExxonMobil comes to join us, a US company with all the expertise they have. So I think that the consortium is a winning consortium, and we have major discoveries in the future.
Okay, and according to your expectations, where do you plan to launch the project? Start from drillings?
It will start just after the license will be awarded by the Greek Parliament. We expect this to be done in April. So immediately after that, we'll start working, shooting seismic, and going ahead for the years to come with geological, geochemical studies before start drilling.
Okay, I've read about these discoveries that is it's ultra deep offshore, yes?
It is.
So there is around 3,000, 4,000, yes? Very deep. Yes?
Correct. The sea depth is quite considerable, but the technology is here. When we have started as Hellenic exploring the country back in the 80s, the maximum water depth was up to 500 meters. Now it's 7 times that. 3,500 meters is something which is doable, and that's why Total and ExxonMobil will go ahead for drilling at these depths.
Okay, and you mentioned that, you need to cooperate with government in order to proceed with such kind of a project. Could you please tell us a bit about your relations with government, how they support you as a company, as a regional company?
The government is in favor of oil exploration in the country, and what is very, very positive is not just the current government, but all the political parties, or say the vast majority of them, is in favor of oil exploration in the country. When the lease agreements are ratified in the Greek Parliament, they vote 290 out of 300 members of the Parliament are voting in favor. So all the parties would like to go ahead for hydrocarbon exploration in the country. You know, for Greece, it's an opportunity. You have seen that Greece, the last year, suffered from the financial crisis, and to explore for any potential resources that there are in our waters or onshore will give us, as a country now, not just as a company, some income which is very, very significant for the country.
Okay, that was one of the next questions I was going to ask. But still, the relations with the government. One of your speeches, I just watched in a video with your speech, and there was a phrase that sometimes with the governments, things happening a bit too slow. And what are you thinking about that? So is it really like that?
Yes, it happens. It happens, but you know, I don't know if there is any country all over the world without bureaucracy behind it. So a month quicker, faster or later makes no sense at the end of the game. Sometimes, yes, we are experiencing some delays for some months, but it's not something that will affect the project at the end of the day.
But anyway, how do you coping with these small delays? Is there any way for you to cope with this?
Just pushing. just pushing the people who are working on the project. Sometimes they are, overstaffed from other projects, especially in environmental permitting. But we do appreciate what they are doing. Especially the environmental permitting there are some delays in there. But the environment for everybody in Greece is something that we are very much concerned. You've seen the Greek scenery, okay? Sun, sea, lakes, beautiful mountains. So all of us, we are very much concerned about the wealth that we have as a country, and we would like to preserve that. So in Greece, there is a very strict environmental legislation. The Greek state has adopted all EU safety and health restrictions because we would like to preserve our country. And we as Hellenic, we fully follow all that. And that's why we respect the people in the Ministry of Energy and Environment. And so far, we are doing projects in Greece for more than 40 years. Nothing happened to the environment. So we understand some delays for approving our application. At the end, all of us are happy because we are going ahead.
People say that the path to the development lays outside the comfort zone. Do you agree with this statement?
The comfort zone?
Yes.
Oh, yes, because you have to work hard. So it's beyond the comfort zone. Otherwise, no. If you love what you are doing, you can do that easily.
Okay, and what is the comfort zone for you personally?
Comfort zone. To have your hobbies, your style of living, friends, family, hobbies. So, but I think that you can compromise everything.
Okay, but well, to step outside the comfort zone, it is a stress. Am I right? In some way.
Yes, it is.
How to cope with this stress?
That's a real difficult question. Nobody can cope with the stress, I think. So.
But your personal tips, what are you doing?
I'm afraid nothing. I am under stress.
Absolutely nothing.
No, it's sometimes you have to relax. Usually, okay, I'm trying that during the weekend, staying with the family, going to football games, which I love with friends, or reading a book, or going to a theater performance. So if you relax over the weekend, and then you have 3 weeks in the summer, one of the Greek islands, like a paradise. Go there and you forget everything.
For me to understand, was there any difficult situations in your career path that you successfully resolved? And to give a piece of advice to young professionals who will start to work soon?
It happened about 20 years ago. It was a very difficult situation for me. For an unknown reason, something happened in the corporate structure, and I at the time was on charge of the geophysical department, and suddenly I was out of that, and that was very difficult for me. And then after a month or so, I thought, okay, let's try to do something else. And I started doing alone an MBA, actually, and moved my career to commercial path. Mm-hmm. And I think that it was successful at the end. Okay. Move, because now I'm saying I used to be a geophysicist, but now I'm a commercial guy.
Okay, so this step helped you to go to the managerial positions, am I right?
I was in a managerial position as a geophysicist at the time, but it was a difficult, it was a technical path of my career. Then I changed, and I found other ways to go ahead in a commercial and most commercial managerial situation. So the lesson is that go ahead. Okay, if something happens, it happened. Perhaps it's beyond your control. Try to find a way out and go ahead.
So these small delays, that is one little thing while working with the government. Is there any other difficult situations?
Sometimes, recently, and it happens just the last month, we are seeing some environmental NGOs to start shouting against hydrocarbon exploration in the country, which it happens for the first time. But their arguments are very weak. I mean, they are trying to argue that earthquakes might happen if there is hydrocarbon exploration, something that cannot be justified all over the world. I mean, there is not a connection.
Is there any example of such situation?
Yeah, you know, I tell you, there is a very false approach in that, and this is because of the Greek language. What I mean, you know, one of the first steps in exploration is that we are shooting seismic, okay? But seismic in Greek means earthquake.
Okay.
Jesus Christ, okay? So in English it's quite different, but if you are a local fisherman or whatever and you listen for seismic, you're thinking that an earthquake will be done there. And Greece, okay, is a place where there are a lot of earthquakes. So this misunderstanding of that work is used by some activists to create a noise against oil industry of what we are doing. And then we have to go to the villagers and tell them that, you know, guys, we are doing seismic in your area for the last 40 years. Is not something that it causes earthquakes. So things like that. But the worst thing is that some of those are speculating on that for reasons which is beyond my understanding.
Mm-hmm. That's a bit strange for me as well to hear that, because I was going to discuss the crisis with you later, but anyway, oil and gas industry helping Greece to recover and to helping the Greece economy, am I right?
Of course.
So, but this is not correlated with each other, these two facts.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if hydrocarbon resources will be discovered and the production will start, according to the lease agreement, the Greek government will have an income which is incredible for the standards and the numbers of the Greek economy. For a medium-sized field like the one that we have in North Greece, around 100 million barrels of oil or something like that, the income of the Greek state over the 25 years period will be around 5 billion of euros, which is a lot of money for a suffering economy. And the Greek state has already a law in place that all this money will go for the pension funds. It's like Norway. So it's good for everybody in the country.
Definitely. So anyway, the country suffered from huge crisis. And how oil and gas industry were surviving when everything happened?
In Hellenic, we survived because during the crisis, we invested more than 3 billion of euros in building a brand new refinery nearby Athens, and also upgrading our refineries, because the group is mainly downstream oriented group. So these investments, first of all, created a number of jobs for the areas, but it's not that, is that we had the opportunity to produce high quality products according to the strictest EU specifications, which we exported in the nearby countries, in Italy, in France, and also we are exporting petrochemicals in Turkey, in Italy. So we overcome the Greek crisis by exporting products. And actually, the group is very proud that the last 3 years we are experiencing high profits, historical profits. Our profits at the BDA basis is almost 800-900 million of euros, which give us also the opportunity for further growth, investing in other business opportunities like upstream or renewables. because we are also expanding in renewables, which is the next pillar for growth for the company.
Which expenses you have cut on because of the crisis, especially?
Always there is fat. So if you cut this fat everywhere, 5% there, 10% there, at the end of the day, it's a lot of money.
3 examples.
3 examples.
Yes.
Okay. Travel in one day, go to London in one day. It's tough, but okay, we are doing that. Okay, it's not a lot of money, but it's an attitude. Second, negotiate with every contractor to cut prices. Okay. Most of them, they responded.
Okay.
And the third was that, okay, it happened for all the Greek companies. Don't increase the salaries, even some cuts here and there in bonuses. So.
Okay, so you balanced on this as well.
Yes.
Okay, so but in general, you working in the industry for around 40 years, am I right? Around that. So how often such situations happen? Of course, not so large, and this one, but anyway.
It happened again in the past, in Greece.
During your experience?
To be frank with you, I cannot recall a time where we are in a very nice situation. Greece is a small country in any case. The market is small. So in order to survive and in order to have some growth, always you are under pressure. So we are very much, in a way, we know how to react on that.
Yes, because I heard that your company's CEO said that in his speech that company wants to be an active agent in national effort to discover the region. Same I heard in your personal speech on one of the videos. So your company is really, really keen on that idea. Am I right?
It is, and we are the only one company that explored the country for O&G the last 40 years. So we have a vast knowledge of the oil promising areas, and it's part of our strategy not to go ahead alone, but also to attract oil companies. It is a strategy that we are trying to realize now the last 6-7 years.
Also, according to my opinion, this region development which your company is doing contributes a lot to the economy of the country and to the crisis situation. Am I right?
Yes.
Well, can you somehow estimate your contribution? Oil and gas industry, Hellenic Petroleum is doing contribution to this economical situation.
There are so many direct and indirect. We are the biggest tax collectors in the country because for any liter of diesel or gasoline that everybody buys, okay, there is a VAT, there is a tax on that, which we are taking on behalf of the country and giving that back to the ministry. That's the one. But okay, it's their money. We are just collecting on their behalf. But we have more than 3,500 employees over the country, and I think that they are well paid. We are making investments, which means that we create jobs around us. The Greek state is a shareholder of us, so they have their merits there. And in general, I think that the group is a growing industry in a very strategic part of the Greek economy.
I also read the principle of your company. We operate responsibility towards society and environment. So society, it is one, we discussed. And you also a bit mentioned about environment, and can you tell us more? So Greek environment, well, it's perfect. Every world know about it. How do you protect it?
Health, safety and environment is our first principle for all the activities that we have in the company. It's number one. Mm-hmm. And there is no any discount on that. So we are trying the best. We are spending, if you would like to say the word spend, I don't think it's the correct one, for doing the best in all our activities for protecting the health of our employees, the health of the local communities and safety and the environment. Whatever, I'll tell you an example in Upstream, a recent one. We shot a 3D seismic survey in Patraikos Gulf, which is a closed sea. it was the first after years. It was a huge operation there with a seismic vessel behind it. Were 8 cables, 8 kilometers long, 1 kilometer wide. It was like 100 of football grounds behind the vessel, who was operating in the closed Gulf for 47 days. And around it there were another three vessels. So we were in everyday communication with the fishermen, what we are going to do the next day and all that stuff. Everybody cooperated with us. All the fishermen, all the the traffic of the vessels, everybody was in communication. Before going there, we had done mathematical models with University of Patras for any potential damage in dolphins, because we are creating some noises, and the dolphins might be hurt out of that noise. So we had extensive mathematical models, and we have seen that the dolphins should stay away from us 700 meters, the maximum. So what we did is that we followed some international treaties saying that, okay, we'll start to create noise and increase it gradually, so that if a dolphin goes there, to go away. And if we see a dolphin, to stop it immediately. Not in 700 meters, but in a circle of 500 meters. During the morning, we were people looking around, and in the night, we have some special cables in the sea just to listen any noise from the dolphins. So when it appeared just one, a dolphin appeared, okay, we stopped everything.
You stopped fully?
Fully. And we did a circle, the vessel with all these cables behind it, and we started again. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, and after that we measured again all the environmental impact that we had in the area. It was zero.
Absolutely.
And we proved that with videos and all that stuff, with scientific measurements. And we can say, okay, come on, how much it cost that? So I can tell you that in a project of $5 million, all what we did for environment was $400,000. So it's 8% more, which is, for a technical project, is nothing. What I mean by that is that we as a company, we can afford, and I think that all the oil industry does so, we can afford to increase a project by 5 or 8% to keep all the measures, all the restrictions, all the constraints for the environment.
Let's summarize any advices that you can give to young colleagues who start in the industry.
Okay, there are some tips. The first one, and the most important, is that they should keep always some principles they have in their life. Don't get out of that. That's the one. The second is that they should not be disappointed. During your business life, okay, you have ups and downs, but there's no any chance to have always ups. So if there are some downs, some difficult times, have some principles that you have in your life and go ahead based on that. And look around, look the opportunities, choose the best one and go ahead.
Okay, but how to accept downs? For example, I am as a young person, how to accept downs in easy way?
No, there is no tip for that. You might be stressed, you might be disappointed, but you have to go ahead. Life is like that. There are so many things that happening which is beyond your control. Maybe you are the best, and suddenly something at corporate level and the firm is closing. Okay, it's not your fault. So you have to go ahead. I mean, life is going ahead.
And can you list your own principles, which you are stick from the very beginning till now?
I tell you what a professor told me when I was young. And he told me that, Yanni, in your professional life, you'll have some disappointments. Perhaps the one could be a very difficult one, like the one that I described earlier. And he told me, you have to balance that. How do you do that? With a family. The family is another pillar in your life. Business is something, okay, that you'll do that, you get the money out of that for living, for everything. But the family is something that you'll support in difficult conditions. So if there is a balance on that, I think it's fine.
Okay, so the balance is everywhere. Do you remember any moment where you were really happy and very proud by your career and what you've done?
The thing is that what I'm doing in my job is not what I'm doing myself. All the achievements that we have done is based on the teamwork, and the people who are behind perhaps are better than me. So these guys are pushing the whole team going forward, and all of us, we have the same target and we are focusing to that. So it's not a matter to say that, and that, or that, or the other. There is something that is missing still, and we would like to experience that, to discover a good oil field. And I think that it will be done soon in the future.
Okay. How do you approach your team as a senior level manager?
If I say like a friend, perhaps it will be a misunderstanding in the whole group or whatever. But the way that we are working is like friends. We are not a kindergarten, okay, it's not like that. Perhaps if you ask them, they might tell you that, okay, I'm a very strict boss and I'm pushing them to the end. But we are setting targets, sometimes are difficult targets, and all of us who are working together to achieve that.
If we go to safety, which are other steps that you are doing to keep the safety on the highest level?
Oh, there are training. There is a lot of training in operations. Before start operations every day, there is a safety meeting with just to refresh the knowledge that you have, and we are trying to keep it at a high level.
Because I found the information that group invested 145 million euros for safety projects in Greece and in the region. Is that correct?
Yes, I cannot recall the number you are telling, but I trust you are right.
Okay, but what are other steps? So training it is one. What are other steps? Maybe new technology.
Technology is out of question. I think that in our refineries and petrochemical, I think that we spend more than 100 million of euros every year to apply the best technologies for health, safety, environment, and all our products are following the strictest European Union specifications.
In general, while reading about your company, I have a very pleasant impression that company really cares a lot about the people who live in the region, about the environment, and about everything. And I was thinking, why is that so? Why do you think is that? Maybe it's a Greek mentality, or what is the reason for such an approach?
You told that.
Greek mentality.
Is the mentality of our nation, which, in this part of the world, in the Mediterranean, there is a mentality of the people are very close one to each other. It's not just Greece, it's the same in Egypt, in Italy, in Spain, all over the Mediterranean. You can see an attitude for the companies who are the local ones to work together with people. It comes from our story, from our history and the culture that we have. So for us, it's something which must happen. And then on top of that, on top of what we Greeks feel for our neighbor, for our colleague, for our family, is that comes the European Union, which is in favor of applying very strict regulations for the environment and the society.
Okay, so the only reason is mentality. You don't see any other reasons for this approach?
Other reasons for this approach? Why?
Size of the country?
Size of the country. The size of the country is something, okay, it's not Russia. But you see, the way of living in Greece is something which is typical in this part. I mean, could be the same in southern Italy. Is a family-oriented society. You know, during the Greek crisis, where the salaries were cut, the pension fund were cut, the country's GDP is less 2/3 when it was in the past. It's like after a war. And there is not a social explosion. Do you know why? Because of the family relations and the relations between friends. In Greece, it's very difficult to feel that you are alone. Even if you are in a very difficult situation, there is a friend, there is your brother, your sister, your father, your kid. So all of us, we are trying to survive. And we are achieving that for thousands of years, okay? Greece is not the first time that it's under crisis. We were in crisis for years and years in the past. And always we survived, and our civilization is here for ages.
Right now you're developing and preparing to develop new projects, and you definitely will need the technology as suppliers for these, am I right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting for us to know how the company of your level finds a new supplier.
We're going to the market, and you can stay in your office and everybody will appear. But okay, we are going to conferences, we are going to seminars, we are all over the region to discuss with academicians, with the professionals, with companies for new technology, and we are open to that.
Okay. And just imagine, is it more likely that an old experienced company will become your supplier, or it's possible that new company can become your supplier? Which one will you choose?
Oh, it depends.
On what?
It depends on their level of expertise, and of course at the end of the day is how much it costs. Okay, we are not over and above the cost, so we are trying to combine quality of services, the cost that they are providing, the technology that we have, so to make the best choice for doing our business.
And still, do you have examples of having a partnership with new companies who are not so much experienced, who just launched some new like startups or in this way? Do you have such an experience?
Yeah, recently we are. I can disclose details because we have not finalized that project yet. We have not announced our preferred contractor, but yes, this is a small company. Actually, it's a Greek one, and we were very much satisfied to see a small Greek company competing with companies from US and the rest of Europe, providing us a very nice technological, interesting approach in a very low price. So, okay, why not with
Pleasant
them?
fact. Okay. You mentioned that you also can potentially find new partners on the conferences, am I right? On the events in general?
Yes.
Do you have such an experience, examples?
A lot.
Okay. And just imagine, the company approaches you during the Congress, and what should they show you? I don't know, you like a very beautiful pictures, or for example, you want to see a dry business facts on the report. What should they show you in order to catch your attention?
I cannot say that we'll be impressed for a very dry business analysis. Greeks are not like that, so yeah, always is the emotion amongst others. So it's a mix. So
okay. You know why I'm asking this? Because well, at our events, we are trying to achieve a very well-balanced audience and to gather people which are both interesting to each other. And that's why, can we summarize what interesting, what important production questions do you have now and you want to solve them by new technology? Can you list some examples for our potential clients to know?
Oh, there are so many challenges now.
Yes, challenges.
In offshore activities. Everywhere. There is not
Thank
something. It's how you shoot seismic. Yes, there is something in there. How you process them. Yes, it's something in there. If you go for drilling, come on. Everything, especially for areas with deep waters. everything is of interest, and everything changes every day. You know that in oil and gas industry, the most challenging issue is technology. Every day something new, so you have to follow that to understand, because you cannot trust everyone, okay?
What do you mean by this?
It happens for everything, okay, in our everyday life. Somebody could argue that can do anything, but it's not always the reality. So we are very much focused on what we would like to do and discuss with potential contractors and partners to understand their strategy, their knowledge on what we are trying to do, the credentials they have from other projects like that, before going to retain them to work with us.
Okay, so definitely you should be selective. But let's summarize 3 tips for potential Congress attendees, how to approach you or your colleagues in order to attract the interest, just to attract.
Just to attract?
Yes, just for you to start investigate them and talk with them further after the Congress.
You know, personally, I'm an easygoing guy, so if they approach me, I'll start the discussion. So, okay, if they ask for a meeting, we'll try to have that meeting. So, if they have something to promote, if it is based on real facts, it's something that has been done again, and they had success, and so yes, we would like to listen to them and have a meeting with them to understand what they are doing. So for us is to approach us in a friendly way and promoting their product or technology or whatever in a human way of behavior.
Your career in oil and gas industry is around 40 years right now, yes, and you were also an advisor in European Commission, Emirates. Also, you had, different positions in societies, and you did, more than 20 joint ventures in frames of Hellenic Petroleum. How do you find energy for all of it?
As I told you, I like what I'm doing. I like it very much. So it's part of my everyday life. So I'm trying to compromise all that stuff. Find energy. Sometimes I have not energy. I'm tired, but I like what I'm doing, and I'm trying to do my best for everything. So, and it's difficult to do everything in the best way. So we have to choose sometime the one towards the other. And okay, this is a challenge. European Union, okay, it came out some years ago when it was just an advice or nothing more than that. It's not politics. It's like an expert, a technical expert, to provide some assistance.
Okay, and how do you keep your energy during the whole day? Do you have any personal tip for this?
The morning? I spend more than 2 hours from the time that I wake up till leave for the office. 2 hours just for me and family. I mean, to make some gym and some training, and then have a breakfast with my wife. Chatting. I don't like to look at my clock during this time, and I think this is a very nice part of the day, to start the day like that. You are going to the job in a relaxed way.
So as far as I understand, sport is one of your favorite hobbies. Football.
And basketball.
And basketball. Okay, and what are other activities of your personal life which helps you to feel relaxed, to like your personal life?
Read a nice book. I'm reading a lot. Go to movies or to the theater, which I'm doing quite often.
Which is your favorite movie?
The favorite movie? Oh, there are so many.
Name few.
Usually I like the British movies. One I've seen recently is The Darkest Hour, about Winston Churchill and the Second World War. That was a fantastic, a very nice movie.
So Blitz, it's questions. You should reply quickly, not think too much. Just say first thing come up to your head, okay?
Let's try.
One crazy thing you need to do in your life.
I have done that already.
Example?
It was last May when my favorite team, we won the Greek champion in football after 23 years. And then I went to the pitch shouting
Really?
with the fans, with the hooligans.
Wow, hooligans. Okay. Okay, good example.
You'll see photos after that. It's an evidence, a selfie.
Great. Another question. What type of people you dislike at all?
Oh, those who are speculating or come to my office against other people.
And if you meet such a person, what would you do?
Blacklist.
Blacklist. Okay. Where do you buy your formal suits?
Oh, there are 2 or 3 shops where I'm living, and they know me. I go there. That's it. Fine. Okay. Easy.
Easy. No special brand or something. Would you like to be immortal?
Immortal?
Immortal, yes. No? Why? You could develop your region till the highest heights.
No. I don't like it. I'll feel guilty, so I don't like it.
Why? Only by feeling guilty?
No, I would like... at the end of the day, I'm conservative, so I'm in the comfort zone.
What company would you work for, if not Hellenic Petroleum?
An American company.
Which one?
Oh, come on. let them make me propose it.
Okay. We will not say them. Which cuisine do you prefer?
Oh, come on. The Greek one. It's a mix from Turkish, which is fantastic cuisine, and Italian. So, the Greek one.
Predictive answer. Only Greek.
Turkish,
okay.
Italian, and Greek.
Okay.
I pick myself.
Okay. Your company website says that safety is your company first priority. We discussed it. And what about your personal life? Is it the same principle for you?
Yes, I'm trying. Although I have a lot of small accidents home because I'm doing like that. Cutting with the knife, your finger, things like that.
Okay. The last question. Advice which you would like to give to the young professional who are starting in the oil and gas industry and want to achieve the good level of performance?
Oil and gas industry is a very tough industry. It's very demanding. So if they would like to achieve, they should make the job as a hobby. If they don't do it like that, they will suffer.
Mm-hmm. So they should love their job.
More than that. if it exists, they should love their job and it will be a hobby for them. It's very difficult to be offshore in a rig 20 days before going back home.
And do you love your job this much?
Yes.
Every day? 40 years experience still?
Yes, I love my job.
That's a good answer. Perfect.